guys if that's what you need.
So I stopped the sharing for just a moment because you're reminding people that there's that we're going to be sharing a recording. Reminded me to, hit record. So we're good. All right. So now we'll talk about the variety of ways that you can find how to get to Google Sites. And there's 3 ways. So the first thing that you can do is you can just go up into the toolbar and you can type in sites.google.com. And then it will take you to your Google Sites collection page or home page. And so if you're signed in with your KSD account, it will automatically link to your KSD sites. The second way that you can go to it is in your KSD waffle, or in the Google Apps waffle. You will notice that we have it right here with Bambi's slide, and it says sites right here. It's blue, it's a little square. She's got it circled. If it's not in your top list of apps, you can scroll down and look for it further down. And then if you still don't see it, you'll probably want to type into the toolbar. And then eventually, the more you use it, the more it will pop up in your apps waffle. The last way you can find Google Sites is you can go into your Google Drive, open up the files, and you can go down to the bottom where it says More, and then you'll find Google Forms, Google Sites, and all that. All right, so when you get to your landing page, so once you go in, you'll notice here at the top it says sites.google.com. You're going to see your landing page, and you can go in and you can hit create. My recommendation would be for you to not, and here's why. This page takes you to the classic Google Sites, which is the old Google Sites. It's not as intuitive, and it's harder to navigate. Everything, all of the ways that you are incorporating your information, it's just much more complicated. Plus, classic is going away in 2021. Now, as you scroll down, or as you go down, you can see you have this link where it says My Sites in KSD, where you can see all of your sites that you've created. You've got deleted sites, so that's pretty self-explanatory. You just delete them. You're looking at the ones that are deleted. You've got browsing sites, which allows you to see any sites created by other KSD employees. And then you have new Google Sites. And this is the location that I would recommend you go when you start to create your Google site. Sometimes I'll type in new Google Sites and it'll bring it up. But the easiest way is to go to this sites landing page and then go down to the bottom and select new. All right. Any questions so far? All right, so now we talked a little bit. I mentioned that there are 2 types of sites. There's new sites and there's classic sites. So new sites are extremely user-friendly. It does limit some of your styling and theme options, but it also makes it easier to actually plan your website. And there's not as much need for web design skill. You can drag and drop. All of this is mobile-friendly. You can be collaborating. You can have multiple people collaborating at one time. There is no page level editing settings. However, the benefits of being able to insert anything from Drive, YouTube, Calendar, Maps, My Maps, that's really, really nice. Now, in contrast, we've got classic sites, a lot of steps to complete simple, easy tasks. While there are more styling options, it also requires a higher level of web design skill. You can't drag and drop. It's not responsive or mobile friendly. You can collaborate, but not very easily and not at the same time. And then you have to use an insert menu to insert all of those Drive files. It does allow you to use widgets to insert, but again, the way that you use it is just not as intuitive.
It leaves a lot of room for error and frustration. And so, and not only that, but if you do go through all of that frustration to create a classic site, they say that they will transfer over to new sites when classics is gone, but they can't guarantee that the formatting will transfer. So we recommend that you use new sites, and so does Google. It even says it. When you click on it, it says recommended new sites.
All right. So before we get going, because we do want you to be able to have a website at least started before we leave, we're going to give you a few minutes to make a plan. So the things that you need to think about is, what is the title of your website going to be, or what is your big idea? What is your purpose? And then who is your audience? And then we ask you to be thinking about, what are those top 5 things that you want your Google site to address? And so whether it's on a piece of paper, in your head, on your hand, wherever it is, I want you to take a few minutes and start thinking about, what do you want your Google site to look like and include?
So there was a question in our chat that Terry had started a Google site last week, and she can't remember if she went to new sites or not. So Terry, if you just go ahead and, if you are on that page, if you click on new sites, it'll bring up any site you've already created. And if it wasn't super, super, super hard to create that site, you probably are in new sites.
And I believe we talked about that last week during the breakout room. So yeah, I would assume most people went to new sites.
Yeah, most people do get there, but a lot of people, they're not sure what the difference is. And so that, understanding that one's just more intuitive, easier, and is going to be around longer. And yes, so Melissa was asking, if you're creating this for school, so the reason we're having you think about your audience is, are you doing this as a PLC platform for your grade level? Are you doing this as a club platform for your students and parents? Are you doing it for your classroom? I highly recommend that you start one for your classroom. Given the state of what's going on in our county, we don't know what school's going to look like next year. And so you can be frustrated by that. I am, but we won't go there. However, my advice is, let's be ready. Let's have a plan. Let's be ready to go. So whatever happens, we aren't going to be caught off guard, and it's not going to increase our frustration. And so, and not only that, let's say we go back to school normal. Well, great. Now you have a bonus. You have a class webpage where you can put any materials, any information, any communication that only your students and parents have access to. You can keep it updated. You can put resources. You can put your asynchronous videos. You could do a flipped classroom where they go home and for homework, they watch you teach a math problem. And then in the classroom, they've already watched you teach it. So now it's just hands-on application. This is a great way for you to get that started, that platform started. As we walk you through this course today, we'll show you how you can plan ahead and put everything for the first semester in there, and you just don't publish it until you're ready for students to see it and have access to it. It's just a great way. I have one that I've got going, and so I'm really big about taking pictures of my students and videos of all of the cool things they do. Last year they created their own skits, and we filmed them with the green screens. And so that's a platform for me to be able to put those for parents to have access to. I can also put homework there. I can link my Google Classroom to it, so it'll update the calendar for any assignments that I've posted. If you've used Google Classroom, you know that the interaction for parents isn't quite there. So all they can see is assignments that are done or not. If you've linked your Google Classroom and you have the resources there, as a parent, do you have any homework today? If they say no, yes, whatever, I can jump onto the teacher's Google Class webpage, and I can see what the homework is. I can see when it's due. And so there's just some really great ways that you can use this. If we do end up having a distance learning format like we've currently had, this would be a great way for you to keep everything in one place for communication with parents and students.
And we have another question. Stephanie asks, does the website keep statistics? And it's so funny you ask that, Stephanie, because we've been talking about that for a couple of days. There is a place where there is analytics, and we can show you where that is. Right now, it hasn't been enabled by the district. We're working on that. In fact, Bambi sent another email this morning just to take a look and see if we can get that started. So there is a way to see statistics. It's just not enabled yet.
And so what we're going to do is I've got a couple emails out to Ron Cohn. He didn't realize it wasn't enabled, so they're working on that. As soon as that's enabled, we will let you guys know, but we will teach you where you're going to go to access that today. So that once, and you're absolutely correct, what it will do is it will show you who has accessed the website, how long they access it, where they accessed it. So you'll be able to see if your parents are getting on there, if your students are interacting. So for right now, this would be great to have. as we're, registering accountability and any students that we interact with through the week, we'd be able to go to the analytics and tell what students are completing what assignments or are working on them anyways.
And then Mary asks, if our site is linked through our KSD, do parents have to be logged in to their student's account? And the short answer is no, Mary. And we'll be showing you how to set your settings so that people who do not have a KSD account can still see your website.
Absolutely. All right, for the sake of time, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right, so you can see that I have kind of roughed out a plan here, and I got to turn the timer off. So I've roughed out a plan here. So I'm moving to a new building and I want to create a class website. And so these are the things that I want to have in my website. I want my expectations and syllabus, exemplars of quality work, classroom routines, a student showcase location, and of course, technology use and expected skills with tutorials.
Awesome. All right, so go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start creating our slide, and I'm going to walk you through it. I sent you guys some resources today in case you didn't have a Google form, because I'm going to show you how to add those.
If you haven't downloaded those resources or made a copy, I would encourage you to do that now, because it's going to be much easier to upload it into your Google site. So yeah, definitely download those resources if you haven't.
And in order to download them, you just have to click on the URL. Once you've opened it, it's automatically added to your drive. I forced copied 2 of them, and one of them I forgot to do that. If you want your own copy so that you're not editing mine, which it's just a generic one, so that's okay if you do. If you click on File, and just under File, it'll say Make a Copy. And so for future reference, any Google slide doc form, slide doc or sheets that you want a copy of so that you can edit it on your own or make it your own, you can go to File. And under File, you'll see Make a Copy. And it will, since this is a slide, you could do the entire presentation or just the slide itself. There you go. File. So yeah, so you always have that opportunity, and that even works with those things that are locked. If you can't, you aren't able to edit it. If you want editing rights, you just make a copy for yourself. And what the user or the creator has done is they're just preventing someone from being able to change and alter their original document. And so you can go ahead and make that copy.
And that's a really great, view only is really great when you are giving information to students or parents that you don't want them to change. But it makes it difficult to share sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a great resource to teach your students, especially if you teach the upper grades. That way it makes it a little easier for you. You're going to post it on your Google site or in your Google Classroom as a view only, and then that you want them to do something with it. And there's 2 different ways to do this, but this is something that they should know as a way to troubleshoot it. They should know that they have the ability to go in and make a copy for themselves so that they then can alter it and submit it as the assignment. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's pull up a Google site and get started. I want to give you guys as much time to be able to ask questions and investigate today. So Casey clicked on the waffle and...
So I was going to do waffle, but I'm going to go into the
new Google. Yeah. So she just typed in new Google site, and you can, as you can see, it brings it up, and then the URL for that is sites.google.com. And so what that brought her to was directly into her sites file. And so if you clicked on the waffle, it probably took you to the screen where on the right-hand side, it would say create or my sites in KSD. And that one, go ahead and click on create. So in create, it'll still ask you if you want to do it new or classic. So you can click on new sites there. All right, so this is, oh, where'd you go?
Sorry.
It's okay. This is going to be, anytime you open up a new one, this is basically, it's blank, it's completely fresh, it's ready for you to interact with it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to give the title. So you can see that in the middle there is the title of your web page. And so she, oh, that's cool.
Go ahead.
That's okay. Can you go back to the Google Sites, the left tab, that one right there? Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, a fresh one. Okay, go ahead and click on New Google Site. So real quick before we start creating our own, I want to talk a little bit about the template gallery. So you can see at the bottom, go back to the, at the bottom underneath her template gallery, that was where all of her sites that she has access to is located. And just like in all Google, across from recent sites, it says owned by me. So she can limit it to the ones that she's created versus the ones that she has access to, but she didn't create or she doesn't own them. So when you start the process, you become the owner of it, and you can have collaborators, but it'll be listed as owned by you. And you can see that she has tons of them because she does an amazing job at using this resource to teach her students how to write, as well as to create a portfolio for them to build on each year. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. And the top part of this page, there's a template gallery. So if you want, you could select a template, something where the formatting is already set up and established for you. There's several different options that you can look at. I just wanted to point out that these are here today. I do highly encourage that you start from scratch just so that you know what all those things are. But in the future, if you're, let's say you've got your class one done and you want to do one for the school, a club at the school, or you want to do one for your PLC, or whatever it is you may want to do, maybe you just come in here and you grab a template that's already formatted for you, but then you'll know how to use all the other resources. All right, so go back to our page and let's get started. All right, so you can see that Ms. Ferguson has put the name that she wants her website to be, what her students are going to see, but in the upper left-hand side, it still says entitled site. And so this is what you're going to call it. So if you teach a club and a PLC, and you're not going to want everything to be Ms. Ferguson. So she's going to put the name of this file, this website, with some detail that she'll understand what the purpose is for. And so that's going to be separate from the website site name that her students see. And when she does that, you'll notice that at the header and inside the site on the left-hand side, it'll put that there. And that's especially important. Let's say that she has an honors math or an honors ELA class and a regular ELA class. Well, she wants to be able to distinguish between the two, even though the content's going to be somewhat similar. And that's a great way to be able to do that. And so I'll give you guys a quick second to go ahead and put your names in there.
And if you don't like, for me, I'm looking at this and I don't like the font of I don't like the size of the normal of the information underneath. And so I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, and I can change that. So you'll see different ways that you can change the look of your heading as well. Mm-hmm. I know we jumped ahead, but that was really bothering me.
It's okay. Okay, so that's into our next topic. So hopefully you've got your name in there now. Now you get to be a little bit creative. We're going to come up with a theme. And so I usually recommend to teachers, if this is your class webpage, do you have a classroom theme? If you teach U.S. history, maybe your theme's going to be something that's aligning with that. If you teach ELA, maybe it's going to be books or poetry or something that's, really brings, I don't know, the more catchy it is, the more engaging it is, the more the kids are drawn to it. So the way that you're going to do this, on the right-hand side of your page, you see insert pages and themes. And so we're going to click on themes. And in themes, you have a couple options, not a lot, but there are several options here. And so right now you can see that it's selected as simple, in case you can pick. So you guys can go ahead and click on each one of those, just see how it changes it. Notice that when you do click on it, you'll see that the color preferences that she has changes a little bit, and you don't see a lot of change going on, just that little dot underneath. The type of font that she can use gives her a little bit options based off of what format she chooses. And there is a paint can on those next to those colors. If you want to alter the color, you can do that, and it'll add it. So maybe you have school mascot colors, your favorite colors. Maybe you're big into football and you want to use your team's, whatever it is you want to do. There is some creativity available. And I know some of you are like, well, I don't like that background being like that. Well, we're going to talk in a few minutes about how you could put a picture there. And so right now you're just really choosing your color selection. So this is
I
kind of
don't
like,
think I've used that before. I kind of like that.
yeah, that's nice. It's got a nice feel to it.
Yeah. And that was
So
slab. Nope, not
hopefully
slab.
hopefully you've selected a color style that you want, and you've selected the kind of the fonts that you want. So go ahead and click on inside that heading. And so you can see at the bottom when she's hovering over that, she has change image and header type. So we're going to click on change image. And then so she has the choice to upload her own image or select an image. So when she clicks on select, and this is very universal through all Google applications, you can select something from their gallery, which is kind of limited, but there's some cool things there. If you have a picture that you really like, you can put in the URL. You can go to your own albums, your Google Drive, or you can just search Google. And so while you're in here, if you look underneath that Google search bar, it says results shown or labeled for commercial use with modification. And so what that means is that when any result that you pull up this way, you have that person's permission to use it. So you don't have to worry about a copyright issue. So once you're here, you can search something, whatever you want your website theme to be. Do know that you can have a different background. And you'll notice as this is loading in the right-hand corner, you saw those little stars. And so when she hovers over at their back, so what that did was it took the image, she uploaded it, and it adjusted it for readability. And what that means is it lightened it or darkened it so that her words could be seen through it. If she doesn't like the changes that it made, she can click on that and take away those. So when you hover it on again, it should say, if she clicks on it, so it took it away. So you can see how difficult it is to read that. So
Yep.
Google automatically adjusted that readability to make her words stand out.
Yep, this is my original picture, and this is what it adjusted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always thought that's pretty neat because there's nothing more frustrating than finding pictures that you really like and they don't work.
Yeah.
So Google kind of helps you with that process. So hopefully you guys have a picture there now. Go ahead and hover over there in the left corner again. So now you can look at the header type. So we've already changed the image. You can reset it if you want. So there's 4 different header types you can use. You can have the title only. You can have the banner, which is what we started with. You can make that banner just slightly larger, and that'll show more of your picture. Or you can make the banner really large. So let's say there's a really awesome picture you really want. Well, go for it. This is just your cover page. It's like the cover of a book. Be as creative as you want. Don't worry about how you're going to fit information on it. That's what subpages are for. This is your website. It represents you, the type of teacher you are, the type of class you want. You really want it to be something that you're proud of, that makes you have that warm and fuzzy feeling. And so be as creative as you like.
All right, and I see Tracy asked, where do we get those options? I want to address that before we move on. Tracy, which options are you talking about?
Hi, it's just the ones that Bambi was just going over. I don't see that on mine. You know where it says simple, diploma, vision, level.
So do you have insert pages and themes?
So that should be right to the side of mine, and
Yes.
it just should automatically be there. So I'm wondering if it's because I have it on half screen. I'm splitting it, or is everybody else able to see theirs?
Tracy, look at the bottom of that web page and see if there's a toggle bar where you can scroll over to the side. And in all honesty, one of the things I've recommended to a lot of the people that come.
There we go. Yeah, I just needed to
Yeah.
scroll over. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So the other thing is that we're going to talk you through everything. And I know sometimes seeing is better. So you could always minimize your Zoom and then reopen it when needed. And don't feel bad about asking questions. Jump in there and let us know. That gives you a little bit, it's easier to find things when you can see the full screen. I totally, like with Tracy, that happened to me in a PD that I was taking with the reading symposium. I couldn't for the life of me figure out what they were talking about. And I didn't realize that I didn't have my whole screen showing. So absolutely, that's definitely a choice that you guys have.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
No problem. Okay, so we're going to jump into how to add subpages. So this right here would be considered your home page. In that box on the right-hand side, you have insert pages and themes. We've already addressed themes and what it does. So now we're going to talk about pages. And when Casey clicked on that, you can see it says filter pages and then home. What you're seeing right now is your home page. If you would like to add another page, you can click on the plus sign at the bottom of that box. It's in a little circle. And so it's going to pop up a box or populate a box. It's going to ask you to give it a name. So this is where you're going to put whatever you want to go in that subpage. So you can see that she's clicked that box and it's has given it a name. So what she has two options now. She can and if you look at the top of your Google site, you can see where it says home and then student expectations and then syllabus. So those are sub pages to the home page. If she clicks on student expectations, it'll take her to one. And now it looks like the same page, but it's not. So this is where I recommend that you go in and give it a different picture. Set it apart from your home page so that your students don't get confused. They don't think that they're where they're supposed to be, and in reality, they're not.
And in this case, instead of selecting and searching for an image, I actually just went into my uploads and I went to my, a folder where I have a variety of pictures. And so if you don't find the image that you want in your search, you can always download something. And you'll notice again, it's adjusting for readability.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the one thing that I wanted to point out here is that in your top right-hand corner of your the image, you can see that it's highlighting the page that you're in. And so they're set side by side. Let's say that in student expectations, she wants to identify things separately so that there's not too much information on this page. So if she clicks on student expectations on the right-hand side and then clicks the plus sign again, she can type in, add a new page. And then she's going to click on that page on those three little dots. We call those the snowman dots. Okay, so she so you can click on the three snowman dots, and these are your options. You can make that page the home page. You can duplicate it. You can change the properties of it, or you can add it as a subpage. You can also hide it from navigation, and this is what we were talking about. So as an elementary school teacher, let's say I want to pre-plan. I want to start the year off with everything ready to go, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to upload all the information for all of my Journeys units. Well, I can hide them until I want the students to have access to them by clicking on those three dots on the side. So the other thing that she was able to do is you can also click on those and drag them into the one you want them to be a subpage of. So if she wants to move this one to be a subpage of her home page, she can click and drag it, and now it'll become, and so if you look at the screen above, you'll see the drop down arrow, which indicates that there are pages, subpages to that home page. So this is where you can get a little bit creative with how you format and your site and how you organize your information. And I'll give you a couple minutes to kind of create that and move it around.
Would you explain how to create the sub page? Because I created rules and procedures and mine just end up in another page.
Okay, so what you'll do is you can do two options. You can click on the one you want to be a subpage and drag it into the one you want it to be under. Or on the right-hand side of that one, you can click on the three snowman dots. And it'll open up the box where you can identify it as a subpage.
Okay, thank you. I'll try that.
Uh-huh. The other way that you can do that so you don't have to move it around is if you click on, let's say she clicks on home, so she clicks on the three dots, she can click add subpage and it'll automatically put a subpage underneath it. So she'll put a title and that'll automatically go underneath it. So there's several ways.
Actually, that's exactly what I just did.
And that's the great thing about Google products is that there's no one way to get to things. You can do it a variety of ways.
Mhm. Okay, so we've talked about how to add subpages and how to, format your screen. So now we're going to talk about how we're going to insert things into your pages. So on the right-hand side, you can click on Insert. So once you've clicked on Insert, there are several options. You can add a text box, you can add images, you can embed stuff, you can access your Google Drive and add forms and different things from that. Underneath that, you'll see is layout. And so what layout is, it's kind of a shortcut. So if you already know how you want that block of information to be laid out, you can click one of those and it'll add it on your screen. So as you see, Casey clicked on the one and it added it. So you can see that block. She's got, this is meant for you to add 3 separate images in one, which is really nice. Now you can always alter it. Let's say you start working in this and you decide you don't want it. So if, stop adding pictures. So click on the, click on the image that you added. So when she clicks on it, you can see it populates a box. In that box, she can crop that image. So she can, let's say she wants to limit it to just the computer, she could. If she didn't like that, she could uncrop it. She could insert a link. So if she wanted students to be able to click on this image and have it take them to a Google form or a Google Doc for them to read, she could do that. And so you can see when you hover over that image now, it'll have a hyperlink to that Google form. If she decides that she doesn't want this or it doesn't meet what she was expecting, she can delete the hyperlink, or inside that image, as long as it's highlighted, she can delete the image. And then there's the 3 snowman dots.
There you go.
So she can click on the 3 snowman dots, and here she has the opportunity or options to be able to replace that image. She can add alternate text. And so what that does is if you have a visually impaired student, you can add text to the image to describe it for them. Or she can, add a caption. And so if, let's say I was adding this on, let's say this subpage was where I was highlighting my students and what they were doing in my classroom, and I wanted to add a caption so the parents knew what we were doing with one of my pictures of kids playing with gummy bears and paper clips. So as a parent, they may not realize that there's an educational focus. And so adding a caption below that image can help, just communicate to them that what the students were trying to learn. And that's engaging, right? So as a parent, I can read that and I can ask those engaging questions to my student and really find out how their day was. Anyway, so this is how you would use those layouts. So I'll give you a quick second to be able to kind of move with that.
Bambi, before we go too much further, do we want to talk about the settings button at the top for navigation?
Yes.
I found it the first time. I didn't have to look all over.
All right, so Casey's going to go ahead and click on the cog. So at the very top, next to where it says publish, you have your 3 snowman dots, which in Google, that's where you're going to find all kinds of more information. So let's say you make a change and you don't like it at all. You can click on version history and it'll give you all of the recent versions you shared. Obviously, this is only like every 20 minutes, so it's not going to go too far back. This is great for you to know for your students because a lot of times something will happen, they'll accidentally delete it. And so they can go into their version history and be able to find that. In those 3 dots, you can also, if there's something that's not working properly, you can report a problem. Or if you just want to take a tour of how to use Google Slides, you can click there. So next to that is your cog wheel. So your cog wheel is where you're going to find settings for all Google products. So in the settings, you have navigation. So next to navigation is mode. So right now at the top of your Google site, you can see all of the subpages at the top right. Let's say you want to put those on the left-hand side. So if you click mode or side, it'll move all of those options to the left-hand side, and you can see you have a hamburger over there now. So clicking on the hamburger should bring up those pages, those sub-pages. Now, at the same time, because that's in the hamburger, it's not as intuitive, so parents may not see it. And that's something you want to keep in mind. Obviously, you will have taught your students how to navigate that, and they should be able to teach their parents, but that's not always the case. The other thing that you have is the color. So right now, that little heading where those options are available, you can make that transparent so the picture comes through. You can turn it to white so it's more recognizable. Or you can change it to black and it will turn the writing to white. It's up to you. And the brand images one, you can upload a logo to your Google navigation bar. So in your navigation bar at the top, you could insert the logo for the KSD school district. You could insert the logo for your school if you wanted to brand that.
Now I'm just hitting random pictures.
Yeah.
Okay. We can move on.
Yeah. And then, so you can see it adds that. So let's say you want to put the mascot for your school up there. You could add that up there. You could put a text or alternate text. Remember, that's for your students that are visually impaired. So in your brand, or sorry, in viewer tools, you can, so this is where you select what you want your viewers to be able to see. So she has it highlighted so that it'll show the page last updated and when it was updated. That's a great way for your parents to know how recent this has been updated. She has it so that it shows contact form for her information. And at that one just below that is anchor links. So if you've ever been on a Google site page, anything that's been added to that page, in the top right, there's this little grayed out box with an arrow in it. And if you click on it, it doesn't do anything. And so that's always frustrated me. And because I'm one of those people, I click on everything and I expect it to do something if it's there. You can turn that off here so it doesn't have those, especially if you're using Google Sites for escape rooms. Because in a digital escape room, everything has a purpose, and that can really confuse kids because they're going to expect it to take them somewhere and it won't. So we talked earlier today about analytics. This is where you're going to be able to enable analytics once we get that working with the district. Obviously, you'll have to create an account. You'll go here and create a new account. Right now, that's been disabled, so you can't do that. But once that is enabled, I'll email you, and you'll be able to do that. And then so it'll give you a Google tracking ID, and you'll have to slide that toggle bar over in order for you to start recording that data for when your students have accessed your site. Just below that is the announcement banner. So right now you don't see an announcement banner, but she's clicked on it. She's going to put in, so let's say that school is closed for the summer. So when somebody comes to her website, she wants them to see that. She can choose whatever color she'd like that to be flashed in. If you scroll down, she can have it on all of the pages, or she can have it on just the home page. It's up to her. Once she, go ahead.
Oh. Let's see, I haven't done this, so I have it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, once you close out of it, you'll see that banner pop up. So that's a great way to catch their information. Let's say a field trip's coming up, parent-teacher conferences, report cards, whatever it is you want your parents to see or students to see. As soon as they come to your website, that banner is going to flash at the top. So that is a great way to get information out right away. Okay, so let's go ahead. Scroll down, and we're going to talk about, so in the bottom right-hand side, underneath insert, you have collapsible, and we're going to go into these in details later. I'm just telling you what's there right now. So we have collapsible text, a table of contents, image carousel, button, divider, and it goes on and on. And you can see here, there's the option to add a YouTube, to add a calendar, map, docs, slides, sheets, all of those. The other option that you have, go ahead and delete that one that you've got there. So on the left-hand side, you can see that she's deleted that. So just click on your screen, double click it. You're still in your header, you gotta go below.
Sorry, the toolbar is in the way and I'm
Oh, that's right, yeah, with the zoom. That's frustrating.
Okay.
So if you double click, it'll bring up this circular wheel. And in that circular wheel, you have several options. And on your Google Slides that you'll get access to today, I've told you what those icons mean. The red icon is the universal icon for an image. That's how you're going to upload pictures. Your green icon there, the little cloud with the arrow, that is to access your Google Drive and upload anything from your Google Drive.
Or from your computer drive.
From your computer, sorry. That's from your computer. So anything you have saved on your computer, so it can be a PDF, just because we're using Google, it doesn't have to be a doc. It can be a Word, it can be anything you want from your computer. And then the bottom one is the one for Google Drive. That's the universal symbol for Google Drive. And so you don't have to use the box on the right-hand side if these are the tools, and these are the most frequently used ones you're going to use. So for the first one, let's go ahead and go to the right-hand side, and we're going to click Add a YouTube video. So go, but
Sorry.
so first thing it's going to do is it's going to take you to where you would search for video. And you can notice here that you have two options. You can search for a video by typing in the URL or the description of what you want in video search, and that'll search YouTube. Or you can upload it. Let's say you already have the video. Maybe the video is something that you recorded yourself, or an analytic, or asynchronous video of you teaching the content. So you would upload that from, you could upload that from your computer. I save all those videos in my YouTube. Just makes it easier for me to organize. So once you have a video, you can just go ahead and click on it.
Do that one because I like that one.
And then hit select. So you can see that the video has been added and it's in a section. She can click on the video, and as she's clicked on it and is moving it, you can see it shows you a grid in the background so that you can kind of organize that where you'd like it to be on the page. When she clicks on the video, it highlights it, and in the upper left-hand side, you have some options. So in the square with the arrow, we'll take that video and make it the whole section of that section that you've just added. If she clicks on that cog, that's going to be your settings for this video. So the control that you have in settings for the video is you can hide controls, the controls that show when you are playing a video, so that they'll just see the video. You can have a progress bar so that the students know how much further. So if this is a video where they're learning something, a lot of students, they ask a million times during the MAP and the SBAC, how much longer? So underneath where she's got it highlighted, it says progress bar. No, don't click on that, move over. So underneath that, it says progress bar. You can select what color you want it to be.
Sorry.
Sorry. And then that just, it puts a bar underneath the video when they're watching it so they know how close they are to being done, which is very useful for using this for instruction. And then you can see where she has it toggled over, it's allowing it to be full screen. So when they click on that, it should populate their whole screen instead of just being a tiny thing. And you can tell it doesn't change it right now when she clicks on it. So, because that's meant for when they click on it to watch it. So if you have it allow full screen, when they click on it, it'll populate their whole computer so that they can see everything. If you don't allow that, it'll just show it in that little tiny area that it is on your site. Go ahead and click done. So once again, so when she clicks on that, on the left-hand side, you have for the section. So those tools over there are for the section itself. So in that palette, if she clicks on the palette, that's the background behind the video. And you have several options here. You can change the color, that's aligned with the theme you chose. You can have a different emphasis, so this is just highlighted, or you can put an image back there. Let's say she wants to put whatever image she wants. So this is just like any other way that you would upload an image. And it's gonna make it that background. So this is a great way to incorporate, to break up those sections. It's a great way to bring in your theme and really make it fun and engaging. You could make it one solid color instead of an actual image if you wanted to. That's up to you. So if she clicks that bottom one with the color, she can go back to themes and she can pick a different color on the right-hand side where we talked about with insert page and themes. So she could, if she changes the color there, it'll change that background color for that section. You can duplicate this section. Let's say that you really like the formatting and you want it to be the same and you're just going to change the video. You could click the two pages on top of each other and you could duplicate it. The other thing while she's there is next to that duplicate, you see those grayed out little dots. if she wants to rearrange the order these sections are in on her site, she can just grab that and drag it to where she wants it to be. Right.
There's no place to take it.
Yeah, because there's only one above it. So you could take
Yeah.
it one, but it's a little harder.
Yeah.
All right, so if she clicks back on insert, we are going to talk about, here we go, sorry. Let's view doing a collapsible text. So go ahead and click on collapsible text on the right-hand side.
Okay.
It's the 2 straight lines with the 2 arrows in between it. So what's really cool about collapsible text is, let's say you want to put something on there, but you don't want it to take up your entire page. So in that top box that you see, she can put whatever she wants to put to let the students know what's going to be there. And then underneath it, what I've done, so if I was using this for my policy and procedure page and I wanted to put the classroom expectations or maybe the rules of the school on bullying, I could attach that document here. I could copy and paste it. I could type it out and hyperlink it. So what I would do is I would copy and paste the document in the bottom section. And in the top part, I would put, school rules and procedures, whatever you want to put. And then what I would do in the bottom one is maybe I'd hyperlink it to the actual school handbook so that if they wanted to go see it in its entirety, they could. And so what this is going to do for you guys is it's going to allow on your actual site itself, they're only going to see the top portion of that content. So it's going to look just like that. And so they'll click that drop down arrow and that'll bring up the bottom section. So this is great. So she just has the title and it hyperlinked. So what I've done with mine is I have copied that entire document and put it in there so that if the parents don't want to navigate away, they can just open that collapsible text and it will show everything. And so you can put as much information in there as you want. It doesn't matter how long it is. So let's say you were using this to teach and you wanted to put whatever the reading material was. Maybe you downloaded an article from Newsela. You could put that text there, and then I would hyperlink it so that they would go to the actual website to take the quiz on it. So those are some options for the collapsible text. It's one of my favorite features. It just keeps your main page from getting really overwhelmed with information.
Before we move on, we have a couple of questions in the chat. Trying to think. So Misty asks, how do you get the watch share to show up on your video? The reason this showed up is because it was through YouTube. So I have it saved, but it's a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
And then accidentally closed slides and can't find it. So Stephanie, I would definitely, if you're looking for it, what you should do is you can go through Google and you can go into your sites. And then you should be able to see my sites or just go into new classic sites and it should be in here. And if it's not, then you can go ahead and post it and we can talk. We can try to troubleshoot.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll keep moving forward. We can always meet later to discuss those things a little bit further. I'm not quite sure where that would have gone. So let's go ahead and do the image carousel. So so what's really cool about the image carousel is you can add several images, and you have to have at least 2 images to use this because it's going to rotate between them. So if you've ever gone to a website and there's a picture that has several dots underneath of it, that's what that is. It's an image carousel. It's going to alter or rotate between those, or you can click on the dots to see the images. You often see that on Amazon's website.
And with the image, sorry.
It's going to take a minute.
Yeah. With the image carousel, each carousel can upload to, I believe it's 15 images. It might be 12, but I'm pretty sure it's 15. So that's the max that you can have.
This is a great way if you're uploading pictures from a holiday party or something. Obviously, you don't want to have 15 pictures all the way down your Google site, so you can upload them as an image carousel, and then the parents can toggle through them. Once these have all uploaded, she can hit insert. Okay, so once you've clicked on that, so you can see as long as that's highlighted, and you know it's highlighted because it's got the blue circles around it, in the top left-hand side, there's the settings cog, which takes you back to that window. So if you click on the settings within that, so here's where you have your options. Those dots at the bottom of the image that I was talking about where they can toggle, if you don't want those to be there, you can take those away. Let's say you want to add a caption. You want them to understand what you were doing, that this was a science experiment when the kids were playing with gummies, or you also have the option to auto start it. So as soon as it appears on the screen, it'll start toggling through them. And then you can control the speed at which it does that. Once you've selected all the changes you would like for them to see, you can hit update. And it will apply that to your screen, just like you did with everything else that you've added. So this is in its own section. So you have the option to change the theme in the background. You have the option to move it around or delete it. You can put an image, whatever you'd like to do. Because there's an empty spot next to it, you can add something there, and we'll talk about it. So go ahead and click on that empty spot, double click it, and hit the 2 T's. So the 2 T's is going to open a text box on that right-hand side. So maybe I want to give a little bit more detail to go with this image carousel. So you could type whatever information you want here, and then you have a little bit of formatting ability. You can center it, you can put it to the left, right, you can do bullet points. You can type normal text, and I believe you can do title, heading, or subheading. It just changes the side and the depth of the actual images. And then in those 3 little dots to the right, I don't know why you would use this. So click on the text box again. I don't see it in yours. Maybe it doesn't have it with subheading. Go back to click on that text again. And then go to normal text to the top. So yeah, so in normal text, you have the 3 dots to the right-hand side. And that gives you the option to, you can code the font, which is it writes it out in like a code format, or you can strike through stuff. So if you're using this for an instructional piece and you want to show something that shouldn't be there, that's one way, but it only does that in normal text. So you could highlight a piece of text and then click strike through and it would cut it out. So if you have a student that's created, like your students have their own Google Sites, which is something Casey's done, and this is where they turn in their information or where they're creating their portfolio and you're editing it, that's something that you have the possibility to do to show them to edit it. All right, so we've just talked about how to insert a text box, and you can, those 2 are together. At any point in time, she can click on the font and she can move it. She can put it in its own place if she wants to. It's really up to you what you want to do with it, but you can tell that when she clicks on it, it's within that section with that image. She can take it out of that image if she wants to. It's just however she wants to format her site. The next one we're going to talk about is the button on the right-hand side under Insert. The button is really cool. I like this. If you want them to link to something, let's say I'm putting on the parent, because I have a parent information subpage, and I want the parents to have access to be able to get to the volunteer form. So I could type in that button, whatever it is I want them to be able to access to, and then I would put the link to that volunteer form from the district's website. Once I hit insert, it's going to insert on that page as a button. And so as that button's highlighted, so you have to move it out of there to highlight it.
I know.
If you click on the drop-down box, you have options. You can have that text filled in, and you can see it's filled in with the color. You can have it just outlined or just the text itself. So if you have maybe your background's really dark and you just want the text, it's really up to you. And if you click on the pencil, that takes you back to be able to editing. So that pencil is the universal icon for edit. So let's say you want to rename it or you want to change the link if things get updated throughout the years. This is how you would do that. Once you've made any changes, make sure that you click update. And then of course, if you want to delete it, this is how you would delete it. You would click on it and it would give you your trash can. So the next tool under our insert is divider. So let's say I want a clear break and division between one thing and the other. So she's put the divider there. Go ahead at the top, Casey, and show the preview of your site. So if you want to see what it looks like from their point of view, this icon she's on now will populate it to what you see. So as you can see, before you scroll down, at the top, she's got her banner. She's got her website name and her icon. You've got your sub pages that are clickable. She's got her picture. As she scrolls down, there's her video, her collapsible text that she can click on. And then you can see that divider just puts a clear line divider to show a distinct break between what's above and below it. So as things are changing, if you want to make sure that they know that this section's ended and a new one's begun, that's why you would use that divider. All right, go back to the slide.
While we're here real fast, you'll notice that I have it on large screen, and we'll talk about the preview later, but it also, you can preview as a tablet and you can preview as what it would look like on a phone. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you do have those options.
So the other thing that's on here underneath our divider is a placeholder. So if she clicks the placeholder, so the placeholder just creates a box and you can put whatever you want in that box. I've used this before to remind myself that I want to add something there. So go ahead and click on calendar.
Starting to move a little slowly. There we go. There we go. Calendar.
So the only calendar it's going to access is your Google Calendar. And so this isn't going to access your Outlook calendar, which is probably good. Your kids don't need to know when you have PLC meetings. What's really cool is if you're using this with your Google Classroom, if you click that, it'll pull anything that she has going on in her Google Classroom assigned to her kids, any due dates coming up, it'll put that on there. So on your home page, I always put my calendar because I will put reminders in my classroom about field trips and this and that as a material instead of an assignment. And that will update in real time my Google site. So anytime you add something to your classroom, it will update it on your class site. Now, while she's in here, you have that similar, so you have the box with the arrow, which will make this full screen. But you also have your settings cog, which is universal. That's where you're going to go to change any settings. So this is where you get to allow what they see. Maybe you don't want them to see the title. You can change that here because that title is going to be whatever your classroom is called. So you just want them to see the calendar. That's fine. You can do that. You can toggle, go ahead and click each one. So that's taken away the navigation buttons. And the reason I recommend that is because it does limit like the information there. And so it just shows them what's available. If those navigation buttons are there, they are usable. They can toggle through the months. You can't when you're in here, but you can show the time zone. I don't really understand the benefit of that. Your kids probably don't need to know all that information. You can show users, use viewers time zone. That'll automatically, whoever accesses your site, it'll show the time zone that they're in, which is, I guess is convenient if this is a PLC and you've got people in different time zones. I don't know when that would be applicable, but it is there. And then you have view section. And if you change that, nope, go back to view section. And so you can see it changes. So at the bottom in view mode, she's changing the way that you see it. So you can see it by month, week, or agenda.
That's a mess.
Yeah, and so it just depends. You want this to be intuitive for your students. So you need to be thinking about what grade level they are. And how much information is in your Google site. You have to imagine that in a classroom, you've got quite a few things going on. And so maybe you just want them to see it week by week instead of month by month. So you have choices here. Maybe what I would think about doing is on my homepage, I would put the calendar and maybe I would just show it. I I would show the whole month so they could plan ahead for studying purposes, but maybe inside that, my subpage for that class itself, I would just show the week. And so and that would update it each time. So they would have two different views. I'm thinking about my learners and what might be best for them, and scaffolding my instruction. So anyways, whatever you do choose, you're going to click done to save those choices. And then that calendar is going to be there. And just like anything else, you can move it, drag it around, put it wherever you want. You can make it bigger so that it encompasses a larger portion of your screen. It's really up to you how you'd like that to be represented on your screen. Notice how she clicks and drags it. You get those grid marks so that you can kind of align it. The next thing that you have an option to do is the map. So on your right-hand side, she can insert a map. You can enter whatever location you want. So let's say you're in a history class and you're studying a certain location. In my classroom, we do the 13 colonies. So I might want to, on that page, maybe I'll insert a picture from the map of where those colonies used to be. You can put a place mark on there. You can do whatever whatever information you would like to do. So if underneath map,
Did I do it wrong?
no, you're fine. But when you're adding it, you have some more options. So if you highlight map,
Okay.
so you see where it says terrain, click that. It will show you a little bit more terrain, and you can zoom in on it using that plus and negative. So as it shows the terrain, so I was thinking that this could be cool for geography. It kind of shows the mountainside. So a small portion of what I teach in the 5th grade is the different geography types across the US. And so if I click terrain, you can see it does highlight the mountains. I know that 4th grade, they do a lot with Washington State history. And so this is great. So the other option you have is this satellite. And notice how that highlights the different labels, and it really gives a little bit more information about what you're seeing. And this is, remember, we selected terrain, so it's showing us like the mountains and the different forests. And so it just depends on what information you want to be able to show you. Those are the options that you have when you're here. On the top right-hand side, you can drop a place mark. So if you want to focus on a certain area, you can drop a place mark to bring their attention there. That's available too. If you know anything about Google Maps, if you have a map that you've already created for instructional purposes, you can click on My Maps at the top and then just drag that map right in. So let's say you've created a Google tour and you want to just add that one. You've already done all the work. You can click that and it'll bring in that map you've already created. So you can see here. And then what she could do is she could hyperlink this to her actual Google tour. Sorry. So she would click on it. She'd click on the hyperlink button. I don't know if you saw her do that, but she went to the top of her screen next to her cog tool and the person and hey, you're going to slow down. Right. Cog tool, you're like going all over the place with the mouse. So there's the cog tool and then the person with the plus sign. That's how we share this with other people. And then you have your hyperlink button. You can't, oh no, that's the copy the link. So where's the hyperlink button at, Casey?
I think in this one, like with this, you can just, like it takes you straight to the map. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay, that's right, you're right. So since she uploaded it from My Maps, it's already hyperlinked. You don't have to do that separately.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't get that option until you're in preview mode.
Right.
Thanks. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on Docs.
Now, when you're adding documents, you can do different documents from your Google Drive, or you can hit the double tap in the middle and then you can upload from your drive there. So you have when you're using the Google tools, you have a variety of places that you can go to upload docs.
Yeah, so remember we talked about when you double click on the Google site, it brings up that circular toolbox. And it had that universal symbol for Google. So that's what she was talking about. So if you want to upload a doc, you can just do that. You don't have to go to the right-hand side and find it. So go ahead, guys. find a doc or just click on it to upload it so that we can kind of play around with the different choices we have once we've done that. So you can see the way that she did it, it brought up her whole Google Drive. So you can search your Google Drive at the top. You can do My Drive, Shared Drives, or Shared With Me. She can click on search to kind of narrow it down. Maybe she knows the name of it or it's pretty close.
It's slow. I wonder if it's slow because of my kids' Fortnite.
Maybe.
All right.
All right, so go ahead and click on the one you've already added so that we can look at the setting options there.
Okay. And we can go right here.
Okay, you can see that when you click on it, you can make it larger in the top left-hand side. You can make it full screen. So, and the kids have this option too when they go to your website, if they want to make that, so you can put resources here. And then the option, you have the option to delete it. And then you also have your options. Remember, you can change that. So I want to set this apart so that the kids don't miss it. I can change the theme behind it so that it's set apart from that map. So I can change the color and separate it. I can insert a divider. You have all those options that we've already gone over, so we won't keep doing those. But just remember that you can use that as a way to set that apart. She can also click on it and make it smaller. So if you don't want them to be able to read the full thing, you want them to click on it, so she can drag that up and she can make it smaller. And so, so she could put multiple resources in this. The reason that you would do that is to keep your Google site, your web page from being super long and them having to scroll and scroll and scroll. Because ideally you're not going to have them read it directly from the site. You're just putting it there as an option for them to be able to have access to that resource. So they would click there and then it would populate in its own page. Then the same thing with Google Slides. So if we're going to click on the Google slide on your right-hand side. It's going to bring up all of her Google Slides. You can access that by double clicking and it'll search your drive. I kind of like doing it on the right-hand side because this will only bring up slides. So she can click on any slide. And that will insert it into your project. So this has a little bit more options. That's why you see the cog setting. So if she clicks on the cog setting, you have some options here. So you can have that Google slide automatically start to play. You can have it loop so that when it ends, it'll play again. The delay time is how much time will pass before it moves on to the next section. If you have any separate videos within the slide, keep that in mind. It will loop on whether or not you're done or not. So you want to make sure that you read that carefully so that it doesn't it doesn't move too fast for them to read it. You can also select what slide it starts from. I'm not quite sure why you would do that, but maybe there's a certain slide you want them to really focus on, so you can select what slide it starts. Regardless of what other settings you choose, always make sure that you select done in order to save those changes. If you just click out of it, it won't save them.
Now, and the reason I think that is choosing the slide that you start on, so say for example, this is a HyperDoc that's separated into research and the writing. And so you could have it where it's just going through the writing piece. And so you're eliminating some of those slides that maybe aren't necessary.
So next is the sheets. So I sent you guys a sheet today, so I wasn't sure if you guys had all used that. So a lot of people still use Excel and Microsoft, and I do for some things too. So you would just click on the sheets. Once again, you can add this by double clicking on your screen, but it's going to bring up everything in your Google Drive. This will limit it. So you can click on any sheet. And you'll see that it'll add it full time. You also see that the settings cog appears, which means that you have some options. And so you can select which sheet you start on. So, and in your sheets, we can make separate sheets all in one. So you can choose which one you actually display and where it starts. And whatever changes you make, you're gonna set. The same thing,
Tell me where to go.
no, you're fine. Just click done. So within your sheet, can you click on sheet 1? I'm just curious. I've never tried it. Oh, you can't. All right.
I wonder if you can within the preview.
Yeah. Because that would be interesting.
There's so many things in here now.
I know. Well, I wanted everybody to play around with adding everything.
Yep, you can within the actual published website. You can.
Yeah, so that's what's nice to know is that these are interactive. And so once it's published, they can move in those documents, within the documents. They can move within those slides. And so 2 things, obviously that's a great possibility for them, but also if there's something on sheet 1 that you don't want them to have access to, then make sure that you're aware of that when you post it. All right, so we've added a sheet, and the same thing with everything else that you've added. You can make it smaller, bigger. You can put a theme behind it. It's really up to what you want to do. Just make sure that it's highlighted when you move it around. So the next thing is forms, and this is great. If you're using this as a flipped classroom for distance learning and you want to add your forms to the class website so that your parents can access them, can you pull up a form from, or go ahead and do this one. Go ahead and add a form real quick. Okay, so this is the one where it's a peer review. It's got a presentation rubric. One of the things that I want to point out is that if you're going to do this and you're anticipating that you're K through 5 and parents are going to be accessing this without a KSD domain, then you want to make sure that that form is available to be viewed by anyone with the link. So Casey, can you go to a form and we'll just show them real quick how to do that. And you're going to want to do this with all of your resources, but it's a little different with forms. And if you were in our class on Tuesday, we showed you this, but if you weren't, I want you to see it again because it's really important. This is where the frustration comes from. So to make this accessible to everyone, I have to go to send and then go to add collaborators, which seems weird, but that's where it's at. Then down at the bottom, you can see that because this is a copy she made, it's restricted again. And so when I sent it to you guys, I opened it up, but when you make a copy of something, it's restricted automatically. So she needs to change that and in that drop-down box, she's gonna change that to anyone with a link. So if you teach K through 5 and your students don't have access to an email and you anticipate the parents being the ones going to the site and opening this for your students, you need to make sure that that's available to anyone with the link. Now look to the right of that where she has as an editor. If this is a form, I may not want them to edit my form. I just want them to take it. And so she can change that there.
This one,
Is it not letting you change it?
it's not letting me.
Maybe they have to be an editor. I'll look more into that and I'll email everybody. So, but I do know that your parents aren't going to be able to access this unless that's open to everyone.
Oh, it's because hyperlink. I think it has to do something with the collaborator piece.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go back to the sites.
Oops. Gotta figure out which one I'm in. There we go.
Okay, so we've added a form. Obviously, that's quite big. And if you can imagine looking at this website, she may want to shrink that up because they're not going to take it like that right away. So she can make it smaller for the formatting on her site. So she's just dragged it up so it's all a little bit more encompassed. You still have the option to be able to make it bigger if you want to. And so that'll populate it into its own. So that's how you would add a form to your site, which I think is really useful, especially for distance learning. Next, we have charts. So the one thing about charts is just click on that for a second. So if you look on your right-hand side, when you click on charts, it's literally going to bring everything up in your drive. And the reason is because you might have a chart. You can put a chart in anything. You can put a chart in slides. You can put a chart in sheets. You can put it in docs, anything you want. So mostly what it's going to bring up is sheets because that's where the most intuitive place that you're going to have a chart. Now here's the key. If she hasn't created a chart within that sheet, it's going to, so if you click on one that you don't have a chart in, and hit insert, it's very deceiving.
Oh.
So see at the bottom, it says Digital Escape Room has no chart to insert. So it's not going to do anything because there wasn't a chart created within that sheet. So It's only going to be able to pull a chart if you've put a chart there. So I sent out a link today that with a sheet that had a chart in it. I think it's the one to the right. That does that have a chart in it? Yes.
Yeah,
So
I copied it and labeled it BP for Bambi.
Try that one again.
I was gonna say it's slow. And I know some of you are posting some questions, and we are planning on answering them, but we also want to give a little bit more time for people to be able to work. And so we're kind of moving through things pretty, not quickly, but pretty thoroughly so that we can answer a lot of your questions as we go, or as we finish up. Oh, for whatever reason, that one, it said that one had no
I
charts
don't think there's a chart in that one. I think there's just an image. I don't think that's an actual chart. It's an image of a chart. So I sent you one that had a chart in it. So
I click on the one that titled grade book and it worked.
yeah, so that's the one that I knew had a chart in it. So you probably don't have it, Casey. You probably didn't open it. It's
yeah.
So yeah, that one, I don't believe that that's an actual chart. It's an image of a chart.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
So basically, all you really need to know from that is that in order for it to put a chart on your page, there has to be a chart within that document. So make sure that if you want you want the chart on your page, then you're going to want to go to your Google Sheets, turn it into a chart, and we should do a PD on Sheets. But anyways,
Well,
okay.
clearly I'm not the one that should be doing it.
You're fine.
All right.
Go ahead and scroll back down to the bottom of insert on the right-hand side. So
That's it.
charts is our last one. Okay, so so let's take a look at some of the questions that we have.
Okay.
All right, so one of the questions that that was asked is, what's the difference between view and commenter options since my parents are opening this? So Beck, the only option they're going to have is that view option. So when she clicks on that preview, this is what they're going to see. They're not going to see the edited version that you see. So you can always go here and check to see, what they're seeing and what it's going to look like and how it's flowing. This is their view. This is the parents are going to see this. The students are going to see this because you're going to provide them with the URL. Let's see. I wanted to talk about, so now I'm trying to get back to the questions. There was another question.
So Bambi,
Yes.
there is no difference in allowing them to either type into a chat box on that, the viewer or commenter. There's no difference in what I have.
So where are you seeing viewer and commenter?
Where you get the option for editor to change that, the drop down.
Oh, so we're going to talk about that in a
In the
minute. Okay.
commenter.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about when you publish it. We'll talk about that. We're going there right now. And so let's see.
Or it could be within the documents too. Okay.
So one of the questions is, can you change the order of your subpages? Absolutely. So if you click on pages, Casey, you just click it and drag it where you want it. It's very easy. So she just made it another subpage. If you don't want it to be a subpage anymore, you'll drag it out of there and put it in its own spot. So now they're all separate. So you can change it at any point in time, put it wherever you'd like it to be. Remember, just to reiterate, so on those 3 snowman dots to the right side of that page is how you publish or unpublish that subpage, or hide it from navigation so they can't see it. So now we're going to go into talking about publishing. So at the very top of your Google site, it says publish. So when that populates, you'll see that your web address, so it has what she had typed as her title, it's put that there. So if you want to change that, make it a little bit neater. And what this is doing as she types, you can see underneath that box, it's taking the URL and it's adding her personal identification to the end of it to make it more user-friendly. Obviously, if you remember that beginning sites.org, that .google.com/ksd.org, then if that's personal, so like if I put Piscasio, because there isn't any other Piscasios in the KSD district, then it would make it easier for my students as well as my parents to remember. Now, keep in mind that I may want to change this. Maybe I create a site for each year. That's really up to whatever you want to do. You might want to identify that with numbers for the year that this site is for. And then you have underneath that, who can view my site. So right now it says anyone at the KSD school district. Obviously, that's not going to include your parents if you're K through 5, or that's not going to include your parents if you're middle school or high school. I want my parents to have access. I want them to work with me to help their students grow. So here's where you can change that. So I can share this with people or groups, so you could personally invite them using their email. Or you can go to links. So if she clicks on links, so you can see here, draft is restricted. Only people added can open with this link. Publish site is the one you're worried about. So in that one, she's going to want to change it to public. Now, please know that just because she changes it to public doesn't mean that anybody in the world can see it. Without that unique identifier link, they're not going to be able to find your site. They're not going to be able to Google Casey Ferguson and find her site. They need that link. And so when you change that to the public, I don't want you to think that everybody in the world is going to be able to see that. They still need that link to be able to see it. But what that will do is it will give those people who, your parents who don't have a KSD email address, the ability to be able to go to that site. The draft right there is, so the one thing, can you go back to that? So where it says draft, one reason that you would change it that way is the way that Casey uses this. So if maybe she's collaborating with a student and they're creating a portfolio where she can go in and edit their work, or maybe her assignment is for her students to create a site where they're going to represent their knowledge on a topic. This is where you're going to change their ability to work together on it. By changing that, you would change it to anyone with a KSD email, because obviously it's going to be your student and they're going to have that. And so that you can see to the right-hand side of that, it makes them an editor in the draft portion. So the bottom part is making them a viewer, somebody who can view your site. That top part is giving them editing rights. Go ahead and click on that cog. So this right here, if you click that button, it will allow people in the Kennewick School District to be able to search for this site. So that's entirely up to you. Notice how you don't even have the option to let people outside of KSD search for your site. So I just wanted to show you that this is only accessible if you have the unique link. And if you look up in your URL right now, that is a crazy link. The chances of somebody randomly guessing that is really not going to happen. However, let's say you want people in the district to be able to search it. I'm not sure why. Maybe in the high school, if you're having kids create a portfolio and you want the teachers to be able to view that as they grow, then that would be something you could consider. It is available, but it is only available to the KSD district. Go ahead and go back. All right, so she can go ahead and click done. And so this is, in this is where you would put that unique identifier at the back end of your URL. So see there where it says search engines?
Sorry.
You have to click in the drop-down box. So go to unpublish. You want to unpublish it. You can't make any changes once it's published. So see here where it says search settings, request public search engines to not display my site. That you're going to want to click that. So this isn't going to, so that way it doesn't show up. If somebody puts the link out there, it won't show up on search engines. So this is another way that you can keep this private. So there are some steps in there to make sure that if you do use your website as a place to showcase your students' work or their pictures, or that contact platform that we want with parents, you can keep that information private. With that being said, make sure that you have your parents' permissions. I would explicitly tell them what your intentions are, explain to them how you're going to keep that secure, and that way they have the option to opt out. You see a lot of teachers who post their students' pictures on Facebook. Not crazy about that, but I'm hoping that there's informed consent with those parents and they don't have an issue with it. I did have an experience my first year of teaching with a teacher who was also a parent. And she explained to me that the reason it was so important to her that her child not be put on public platforms like that is because her child was adopted and their birth parents didn't live far from here. And so that put her at risk. And so keep that in mind as a teacher when we want to showcase how great our kids are doing and all the wonderful things that we're doing with them, but we don't want to put them in danger in that process. Okay, so we've talked about all the different publishing options there. So next to your publishing button, you have that link, which is anytime you see that, that's a URL link. So this is the link that you're going to want to give to your students and your parents. When you first meet them and you introduce them, you're going to want to tell them about it. This would be a great thing to have on that paper where you're going to let them know what your intentions are for this website. If you intend on putting, class party pictures and stuff like that, this is a great place for you to explain to them, maybe even get them to sign giving consent, and really explain to them what you're going to do it for and how you're going to keep them protected. Next to that is the icon there. That's to preview. We've already talked about that one. But then next to that is your back and forth arrow. So we all, get tired because I'm sure you guys are like every other teacher and you're working well into the midnight. If you want to redo something, like let's say you undo it, but then you're like, no, I liked it, redo it. So here's your back and forth buttons. You don't see that a lot you do in Google. It's usually on the left-hand side, but here it's in that top part. So the one thing I'd like to point out is that anytime you go into your Google site and make changes, you have to publish it, or whoever has your URL won't be able to see it. I had a young man who was working on a digital escape room, and he sent it to me to preview, and there wasn't anything there. And that was because when he originally started it, he published it, but then when he started making changes and updating it, he didn't publish it again. So notice, so if Casey changes something, so delete the practice page. So now that she's made that change, she has to publish this again. So if she goes to the top and clicks on publish, so you'll see she has what's currently published. She'll see a view of that, and then the draft. And so it'll show so does she want to publish this? So if she wants to make those changes, then she'll hit publish in the top right-hand corner. Next to that is a cog. So if she clicks on that cog, that's where all your settings are going to be. You hit publish.
Oh, I hit publish. Yep. Here, how about this? Here we go. Delete, publish. It's because I know where you're going, and then all right. So apparently I don't.
Yeah. So when you're making that new publishing, this is if you want to make any changes. So here you can see it has search settings. So public request, search engines not displaying my site still. So if you want to change that, I'm not sure. Maybe you want to. Maybe the kids are going off to college and you want it to be accessible because they've created a portfolio that they can use for job applications or college application. You can also change whether or not, so review changes and publish. So editors must review changes before publishing. So if I am working with somebody as a student, like let's say students are working together and I check that, they're going to get a notification that you've made editing changes. And so they get to be a part of those changes. So somebody can't just go in and start changing your website because you've asked them to help you out. So you can give them that option or you can take away that option. That's entirely up to you because you are the owner. Either way, whatever you change, make sure that you click save. And then I just saw a question come through. All right, so it says, I'm thinking of how to integrate this with Google Classrooms. Can you link to assignments in Google Classrooms or do they not integrate well? Absolutely. And so one of the things that we'll get to, all right, if you want to go ahead and stop sharing, Casey, I'm gonna.
Okay. I just want to point out real fast. So right now I am on the calendar. And so one thing that you can do is if you are in the preview mode, you can select on each of these assignments and it'll bring up that assignment. So students can see it within the calendar, but then we can also talk about incorporating Google Classroom.
Yeah, so what Casey was saying is you bring that classroom in from your Google Classroom or that calendar, you saw that it showed assignments. So when you click on that, like this, so the parents could click on it or the students, it'll populate what the assignment is and what they're supposed to do. I encourage you to be very intentional with your directions in those assignments so that the parents can hold their kids accountable, because that's what's going to populate is all that information and then the access to those docs. So all of that works together. So I highly encourage that you have a Google site as well as a classroom. And think about your classroom as what you're going to use in the class for that integration. And there's so many great things you can do with it. But if you want to bridge that connection with at home, as far as them having access to information and getting past the whole, because Google Classroom is very difficult to access for parents because the only way to access that is with a KSD domain. Well, parents don't have that. So K through 5, they don't have access to their email. So that's pretty tricky. With that being said, the very first thing that I would do on the first day of school is I would have your kids log in while they're here at the school and add that classroom. Because once they're in there, that problem kind of goes away, because they can access that through their Rapid Identity. But if you're trying to add students to a Google Classroom while they're at home, it's really difficult because you can't send them an email invite because they don't have access to their emails until they're in 6th grade. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys some of.
And while we're at it, Bambi, the question is there a translate option? And I'm not aware of there being a translate option within Google Sites, but I do know there are different extensions that allow you to translate a website.
Yes, and there's actually one of them that I think I put in the forms training that's on there. It's an add-on that will translate. So when the student speaks into it, it will translate 40 different languages. So it's a great way if you have an ELL student and they haven't quite learned to speak the language fluently, but you know that they know more than what they're able to communicate. I love that tool because they can communicate it into the computer in their language and it'll translate it into English for you. So that way you know if there's any misunderstanding in the content for them. And I will, I'll look at the chat notes and I'll send an email to who asked that. Mike was saying students in high school need to actually access their email to get the link. Yeah, so you're the only way to, I mean, you have to have a way to communicate the information to them. So you're going to email them the link, you're going to give it to them in class on the first day, you're going to put it in your Google Classroom, however you choose to communicate that, but there has to be some kind of platform for that. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the ways that teachers have set up. So this is a Google Classroom that's been set up by a lady who trains service dogs for autism. You can see that all of her stuff is on the left-hand side. I don't like hers quite as well, but so I wanted you to kind of see, like, you get a lot of information. I can limit that information to just, oh, why it's kicking people out. This one's a lot. I like this one quite a bit. This is an educator. Is this? I thought I had these in different order. So this is someone's so somebody's used this as a portfolio. So she's using this for a job advancement. So when she would, on her resume, she would have a link to her Google site. This is something the high school teachers might want to think about. I went to a great conference about 2 years ago, and one of the high school teachers talked about how in 9th grade, the school as a whole started setting up a portfolio for the students. And one of the great things about it was the students could look at that and see how they grew, but it also held them accountable for what work they could do. You know, you wrote this amazing paper last year, and you know your quality is supposed to improve. You have to identify areas for improvement. But anyways, what it showed them when they were done was it allowed them to showcase how they had grown in their knowledge and capabilities. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm clicking the right side. Those are student portfolios. This is a way a teacher has set it up. So I really like this one. You can see that she's using the top bar. I can click on each one of these and it'll take me. So she has her educational philosophy. I think it's a great way for you to communicate with your teacher, your parents, what kind of a teacher you are and what your expectations are. It has her educational history, degrees, any thing that she has. You can see at the bottom, she has the logo for her school. And then she has a student gallery, and there's where your drop-down box comes in. So she has Cherokee Indians. Now, mind you, I have access to this because she shared it as a practice page. If she didn't share her URL, I would not have been able to find this. So she's gotten permission to be able, from the parents, to be able to share this. And you can see on this page, she has the topic of what they're doing, the tech tool that they're going to be using to do it with, and then the competencies. So notice this link right here. When we talked about in the settings before how you could hide those links that don't take you anywhere, that's what I was talking about. So she has this, she's listed out the digital content and instruction, what the students are supposed to learn. She's got a poetry slam on here. And this never gets updated. This is just a practice site that she created, so it's not violating anybody's privacy. You can see that this is underlined in yellow. That tells me that it's hyperlinked, and I can click on that to take me to another page. So you can hyperlink to resources you want to use. Same thing, she's got the expectations and standards that she's teaching at the bottom. She's got biographies here. That's a universal icon for Google Docs. She's showing that this is the topic they're doing, famous African Americans. The tech tool they're using is Google Docs. There's an explanation of the assignment. Down here at the bottom, student samples. It used to be hyperlinked. I could click on it. I imagine that's what was supposed to happen. You would be able to click there and it would take you to student exemplars, maybe examples for the students to kind of use as a rubric. Digital lessons, so that's not a very good picture, but she has it hyperlinked here to go to the lesson. So if I'm doing distance learning and I'm assigning instruction, I could do that. I could hyperlink it to where I want them to go. And then clicking over here takes me back to the home page where she just has a brief intro about her as well as her picture. If we don't get to see our students at the beginning of the year, this would be a great way for you to build that relationship with them. Then obviously when you get down into middle school, it gets a little bit more high tech. This is Casey.
All right, and so we did a digital portfolio for our conferences, and because our students had never done one, and in all honesty, our teachers had never done one, we went through and we created success criteria for each page that they were required. If you go over to the home button, you will notice they have their goals, they have career, they would have ELA, math, science, work samples. The idea was at the start of the year for conferences, they had ELA, and then each quarter we would add more work samples as we went. And so these are the expectations for each of those. And then on that home page, you would find at the very beginning, down below, you'll see links to some other examples. So there's my teacher example, and then we've got some student examples as well.
So this was Casey this was her effort at her school to start the kids creating their own digital portfolio, which is really great. If you can get your school on board with that, then it just builds. Like it starts in that basic class, so 9th grade, 6th grade, and then they just add to it. Once they have it established, they just continue to add to it and grow.
Yes, and so our goal is that for next year, the 8th graders will carry it on. And then I know, I believe Highlands and some other schools are possibly thinking about doing the same thing, where they start creating that digital portfolio and they'll take it from grade to grade so that by the time they're graduating high school, then they will have access to, oh, that was my example. And then they'll have access to all of the work that they've done, and you can really see the growth that they've made.
Absolutely. And in elementary school, we have these blue folders that get passed on every year where the teachers go through a great deal of work and effort to put each student's best paper in there, which is very intuitive. So that when I get them, I can look at it and say, okay, I know you can write better than that. I'm looking at a paper that you wrote last year. How nice is that to have this for the student to have a portfolio and for you to say, okay, go to your portfolio and submit to me your best writing from last year. Now I just have one to go over digitally instead of flipping through these folders for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some really great possibilities there if we start working together across the district.
And then as they transition out of KSD, then you can change some of their settings, and they'll be able to have access to it outside of KSD.
Yeah. So this is an example of Casey's, and I'll let you go ahead and talk about it. But this is an example of she's used the site to teach a specific thing, a project in her classroom. So this isn't her class page, but she's created a site so that she could have one place to house all of the information that she wanted the kids to have access to for this project.
Mm-hmm. And so what you'll see, this is when COVID-19 started, we created a living history project for our students. And then you'll see the purpose, you'll see the different roles. I see that I didn't hit publish because I updated a link yesterday that would allow you to go within the project. It would allow you to connect to the actual expectations and the assignment students had. If you scroll back up to the top into home, you will see that we have examples. So go ahead and select photographer there at the top. Yep. And so you'll see we have some how-to videos. And as you scroll down more, you'll see different examples. So this was an example. And these were actually, it's a collaboration between our grade level. So some teachers took on 1 or 2 different roles, and they created examples to share with students. And so this was a great way we all had access and could collaborate. Yep, go ahead and go to Podcaster. You can do that as well. Oh, you're fine. Historian's good. This is an example of some resources for historian. Yep, so there was an example of student-made or teacher-made reflection. So here with podcasting, there's a couple of different podcasting tutorials. In this case, I was encouraging students to use Anchor, and so we walked them through how to get Anchor through their KSD account. And then again, down below, you have examples of different podcasts that have been done. And so our students had access to this. So they were learning a lot of skills that they hadn't used before because we used all of the regular Google tools, but now transitioning that into creating a journal or creating a podcast or things like that, that was new. And so we needed to provide some support for them. And so this is how we did that.
So I wanted to real quick in our chat room, there was a question on how to delete a page. So in your, so if you're looking at the screen now, so on the right-hand side, if I want to delete the writing standards page, I would just click on it and those 3 little snowman buttons to the right-hand side, and then go to the bottom and click delete.
And I was actually, while we were going through this, I've always done it like that way, but I learned like go ahead and select it. And then if you just hit the backspace bar, it also deletes it.
I don't want to because this is, so see how I have mine.
Standards, those aren't necessary.
You can see how I have mine set up for my room. I have classroom happenings, ELA writing goals. So what I would do on my homepage for the ELA is I'm going to put the standards that I teach in 5th grade, and you can see I have it started here, that I want them to meet. And then within that, I will break it down to like the journeys units and whatnot. Because I want the parents to be aware, what are we trying to hit? What goals do we have for your child this year? And then same thing. So I have it separated by the content that I teach. And then within that, I'll create subpages. You can see here, I have math standards. So I'll have the standards posted there. And then underneath that, I will put whatever resources we're using. And maybe I will create a page for each Orgo unit that we complete with asynchronous videos of me teaching it so that we can do the flipped classroom and they can learn that at home and then apply it in the classroom with me instead of them going home and doing homework by themselves without anyone to help them. And so this is just examples of ways. But yes, at any point in time, if you want to delete something, so if it's on your site page, you click on it and hit the trash can. If it's the home page or the sub page, you can click on the 3 snowman dots, and then at the very bottom, it's delete. And so you can see over here, just a reminder, this is where you would hide things from navigation. So if I were to hide this from navigation, I would need to update my publishing, because until I publish it, it's not going to be, it's like Casey was saying that she had made a change to hers, but she didn't publish it, so we couldn't see it. So that's one of the biggest errors I see when people call me and like, this isn't showing up. Well, did you publish it? And they're like, oh man, we just forget about it. And so that's kind of a checklist that you can go through to see if, when you're trying to think of things that you haven't quite done yet. Let's see, I'm going to open up a high school site just to show. So, and the high school ones can get really fun with the different clubs and stuff. I really hope that they utilize this. It's a great place to keep information. It's a great place for, as a student at your school, if I want to go and find out when you're doing this fundraiser, I can go to your site. You can see that they have theirs listed on the side view instead of the top view like we had done. So here is same thing, professional, her degrees and certifications, her contact information. This is hyperlinked, or it should be, but I can't click on it. So you can see it says course expectations and syllabus, but it's not letting me click on it. So she must not have, oh, nope, that's just the definition. In her resources on the right-hand side, she's got her videos. That's beautiful. And so these aren't hyperlinked, but they're just images or examples. So depending on what, you can really get very specific if you're teaching high school and you just are focused on one topic area. So she does a great job. I like hers. If I was a student in her classroom, I would love to go here and be able to see, you know, her highlighting some of the work that I'd done. Here's another example of a high school student. Okay, so I have in the chat box, it says, how do we delete a page? I don't have delete on mine. Is it because it hasn't been published?
Yeah, and we've been trying to work through that.
I just worked through it. So if you have any messages underneath that page, it won't let you delete the main page. So say you have expectations and then you have subpages of at home or at school. If it won't let you delete student expectations until you delete those other 2 pages.
Okay.
That's awesome. I've never done that before, so that's great. So what she was saying is, if you have subpages and you're trying to delete the home page, it won't let you. And probably because it's not sure if you're aware that it's going to delete all of those. And so if you want to delete that home page, I would move your subpages out or delete those first and then the home pages. Thank you. That's awesome.